Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Eruvin Tzadik Daled. We are 3 lines from the bottom on Tzadik Gimel on Beis. And resuming our discussion regarding some event that transpired on Shabbos that changed the equation with regards to the Eruv. So the question is, does that event actually change the halacha as well, or does the halacha remain the same? So if you're allowed to carry throughout this area, even after this event occurs on Shabbos, perhaps you can still continue carrying. Or do we say that since the equation changed on Shabbos, so does the halacha? Says the Gemara 3 lines from the bottom, Itmar we learned. If there was a wall running along the boundary between 2 chatzeros, so this wall separated them, they made their own separate Eruv. Now this wall collapsed on Shabbos. So now instead of having 2 separate chatzeros, we have one single entity. And they didn't really make a Eruv, one chatzer with the other. So can they continue carrying just as they did at the onset of Shabbos or not? Rav Amar, you can only carry within 4 amis. We're speaking about the household items in the chatzar because it's a joint chatzar. It's a jointly used area. We have new residents that arrived on Shabbos. The wall separating them disappeared. Now we have many more residents living in this enclosure. And since there's no Eruv amongst them, you can't carry more than 4 amis. Ushmol Amar, no problem. Continue just as you did up until now. Zeh metaltel adika mechitza. The member of this chatzar can carry his kalim up until the base of the former mechitza. V'zeh metaltel adika mechitza. Likewise, the fellow on the other side may carry even his household items up until the point of the mechitza. We consider the Eruv still to be intact. Everything is as is. Says the Gemara, V'hada Rav, this opinion of Rav, that the halacha changes on Shabbos itself, la beferish itmar, wasn't explicitly expressed. El mechlol itmar, rather it was implied from the following story. The Rabbi Shmuel havu yasvi v'ahu chatzar. Rabbi Shmuel was sitting in this chatzar, nafal guda the beni, that wall separating the 2 chatzeros fell apart. Amrlu Shmuel. So Shmuel turned to him and he said, Shkulu glima, take a garment, negiduba, and go spread it over where the mechitza used to be. Because you're allowed to carry, even in this chatzar. Although the wall fell apart, but it still maintains its heter status. And Shmuel is consistent with his view that we say once there was a heter Shabbos hutra remains that way throughout Shabbos. Now Rav was there, so when he instructed him to carry in his chatzar, Hadrinu Rav la'api, Rav turned his face away in protest. Amaru Shmuel, so Shmuel turned to him and he said, Ikapid Abba. Abba is in reference to Rav. It's a distinguished title, Abba. So Shmuel told him, if Rav objects to what we're doing, then you know what you should do? It was in a joking manner. He said, Shkulu Hemyane, take his belt, v'katru bel, and use it to tie the sheet over there in the middle of the chatz, between the chatzeros. So he also participates in this tying ceremony. Meiri says the point was it's like in a joking manner. If he objects, let's get him involved in the effort as well. So in any case, from the fact that Rav seemed to object to what was going on, we learn that Rav didn't hold to the heter. He holds that since the wall fell apart even on Shabbos, they can't continue carrying as they did beforehand. Says the Gemara, Ulishmol lamaliha. So according to Shmuel, why did they have to go ahead and reestablish that mechitza, hang the garment as a curtain? Ha'amar. Didn't Shmuel tell us? There's no need for a mechitza. Zeh metaltal adika mechitza. This chatzah can carry until the mechitza. V'zeh metaltal adika mechitza. This one can carry until the base of the mechitza. You don't have to go ahead and reconstruct the mechitza. The chatzeros can resume carrying, can continue carrying, just as they did beforehand. There's no need for that separating mechitza. So why did he need to hang up the garment as a mechitza? Shmuel Ovid, let's nusa b'alma. Shmuel was simply doing it for privacy purposes, but halachically, indeed, no mechitza was needed. V'Rav, isvir lei de aser. Now, if Rav holds that you can't carry in this chatzar, leimalei, why didn't he just tell him? Why did he turn around and just kept quiet? Asri de Shmuel Hava. It was Shmuel's town, Shmuel's area, and it wasn't respectful for Rav to object, to express his objection. If that's the case, my time, I do not pay, so why did he turn around? If it's Shmuel's locale, in which case it's inappropriate to object, to express objection, so why did he turn around in a manner which seemed to indicate that he wasn't happy with what was going on? He simply did it so that people wouldn't think that he reverted to Shmuel, that he changed his mind, and he conceded to Shmuel's shita, and therefore he needed to do something, some sort of subtle form of disapproval, but certainly didn't want to express it verbally and openly, which would be an affront to Shmuel's honor. Continues the Mishnah. If you have a chatzar near Rosh Hashanah, which was breached, he lost some of his walls between himself and Rosh Hashanah. So according to Rabbi Lezer, this chatzar now is regarded like a Rosh Hashanah because it lost a full wall or a portion which was greater than 10 amos. It's a perza, it's been breached and exposed to Rosh Hashanah. So the chatzar in itself is also Rosh Hashanah, and therefore hamachnes mitoichel Rosh Hashanah. The person transfers from this chatzar, which is deemed like a Rosh Hashanah, to Rosh Hashanah, or in reverse, chayev. Divrei Rabbi Lezer, who regards this area like a Rosh Hashanah, since it's open and exposed to Rosh Hashanah nearby. They say no. At most, it's a karmelis. It's neither Rosh Hashanah nor Rosh Hashanah. You can't say this becomes a Rosh Hashanah. It's somewhere in between. Therefore, the Chachamim say, if he carries from this area to Rosh Hashanah or in reverse, he's potter, because it's a karmelis, meaning it's no longer a Rosh Hashanah, even Minat Torah, it's no longer Rosh Hashanah. Rather, it's somewhere in between, it's in limbo. So if one should transfer from Rosh Hashanah to this area, he's potter because it is a karmelis. So Rabbi Lezer holds it's Rosh Hashanah, whereas Rabbanan hold not so quick. At most, a karmelis. Says the mother Rabbi Lezer, Mishum de Nifritza, Rosh Hashanah. Just because his chatzar has been breached to Rosh Hashanah, Havi Rosh Hashanah, that makes it into Rosh Hashanah, it's still privately owned. Yes, Rabbi Lezer Tamei, Rabbi Lezer follows his shita, the Sanya. Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Lezer. Rabbim shebiru derech la'atzim. If the public chose for themselves a pathway through private property, mashebaru baru, whatever they've chosen is theirs, it becomes Rosh Hashanah. Here as well, since this chatzar is exposed to Rosh Hashanah, apparently the rabbim are using it, at least part of it, it becomes Rosh Hashanah. Is that the right pshat in that halacha? V'amar of Gidol Rav, he explained that it's not always applicable. The rabbim can't just come along and grab somebody's property. The halacha of Rabbi Lezer only applies to a specific case. V'hu provided she'avdu lahen derech b'yisei sadeh. They knew that they had a pathway somewhere through this fellow's field. They just weren't sure exactly where. So whereas a private individual has to go summon this fellow to Bezdin, take legal action to figure out where his pathway is, the rabbim don't have that trouble. They can just go ahead. They have a right to just go ahead and choose any pathway they wish, and that becomes their property. Rashi in Rashbam actually, but Basa says, look, the rabbim, who's going to go summon this fellow to Bezdin? Eruvin, Shimon, Levi, nobody's going to take care of it. So that's the halacha, that we don't require them to have to trouble themselves to go to Bezdin. As long as they choose something, it belongs to them. But that's only provided that they already had user rights in this chatzah. They owned some sort of pathway here. How could you compare it to our case? Says perhaps here as well. We're speaking Kigoyin, for instance, that they already had user rights here. Meaning, we're not speaking about giving them rights to the entire chatzah. What happened was the mechitza collapsed. The mechitza separating the Chatzar to Rishus Rabim fell apart. Now there's a legal battle going on between the property owner who claims, look, this spot here was actually where my mechitza stood. It's part of my property. Whereas the Bnei Rishus Rabim are claiming, no, this is not where your property ended, you were much further in. Our street actually extended to this point as well. So there's a dispute between the property owner and the public here. So that's the discussion. They claim that this area belongs to them. And being that they're walking and they're using it, they have rights to go ahead and acquire this, and it becomes like a Rishus Rabim. It's special rights we give to the public that they can go ahead and attain rights to this disputed property. So if that's the case here, that we're not just speaking about grabbing this guy's property, rather we're speaking about an area which is in dispute, and the fact that they use it turns it into a Rishus Rabim. So if that's the case, but didn't Rabbi Chanina say, that until the place of the partition, up until that place, meaning the entire Chatzar, up until the outer boundary, the outer mechitza, is the subject of machlekes in our Mishnah, which indicates that Rabbi Lezer regards the entire Chatzar like a Rishus Rabim as well. Says the Gemara, Ema, say as follows: Al Makayim mechitza machlekes, not ad Makayim mechitza machlekes, which indicates that the entire Chatzar is potentially a Rishus Rabim according to Rabbi Lezer. No, of course not, because the Chatzar certainly belongs to this fellow. There's no claim on account of Rishus Rabim to this entire Chatzar. Rather, Al Makayim mechitza machlekes. The machlekes in our Mishnah pertains to the place, the spot where the mechitza stood, where the owner claims, look, this is my property, this is where my mechitza stood, whereas the Bnei Rishus Rabim are disputing that fact, saying, no, your mechitza was further in, and this spot actually was part of the Rishus Rabim. So in this case, we have machlekes. Rabbi Lezer says it turns into Rishus Rabim, whereas the Chachamim maintain a karmelis, but not more than that. Another pshat. We're not speaking about a case where there's a dispute, a legal battle going on between the Rishus Rabim and this landowner regarding the exact placement of his location of his former mechitza. Everybody knows exactly where the mechitza was. Nevertheless, Rabbi Lezer holds, since the mechitza is here no longer, and we have an area here which is immediately alongside the Rishus Rabim. It's right on the side, and they go ahead and they spill over to this area. It's part of the publicly used area. It's called Sidei Rishus Rabim. Therefore, Rabbi Lezer holds it has a din of Rishus Rabim. The fact that they walk there, they use it, it acquires a status of Rishus Rabim. Everybody saying another pshat, but Sidei Rishus Rabim kamifliki. Machlekes, Lezer and Chachamim is really a more general machlekes. What is the status of Sidei Rishus Rabim, the area alongside Rishus Rabim? The Rabbi Lezer savar Sidei Rishus Rabim, Rishus Rabim Domu. He holds that the sides of the street have a din of the street itself, and is a din of Rishus Rabim. And in our case, the spot where the former mechitza stood, which is alongside Rishus Rabim, has a din of Sidei, and therefore has a din of Rishus Rabim. For Rabbanan Savri, they hold Sidei Rishus Rabim lav Rishus Rabim damu. It's only on the side, the sides of the street. That's not the area, the main area, which is traversed by the public and does not have a din of Rishus Rabim. Says more, if that's the machlekes, then why are they applying the machlekes specifically to a case where we have the chatzar that fell apart? V'lifleg b'tzidei Rishus Rabim the alma. Why don't they have their machlekes regarding a typical tzidei Rishus Rabim? Says Gemara, ifligu b'tzidei Rishus Rabim ba'alma. If their machlekes would have pertained to a general tzidei Rishus Rabim, I wouldn't know that we can apply the same halacha to our case. Why? Havar Amrina, perhaps I would say, Ki pligi Rabbanan oleh, the Rabbi Lezer. You know when the Rabbanan disagrees with Rabbi Lezer? That's only Hani Mili. That's only Heicha de Ika Chifufi. When there are Chifufi, Rashi describes this as some type of obstacles, pegs and stones, which were positioned along the sides of Rishus Harabim to prevent the wagons from crashing into the homes and damaging them. So behind those barriers, very few people walk. It's not part of the main public walking area. So perhaps that type of area, that variety of Tzidei Rishus Harabim, according to the Chachamim, is not regarded as part of Rishus Harabim. Aval heicha de leki chifufi. But in a case where there are no barriers, there are no chifufi, such as in our case, where entire wall collapsed, there's nothing to keep people away from that area. Eima moidule. Perhaps in this case they would agree to him that this has a din of Rishus Harabim. Kamash Malan. That's why the Mishnah informs us. And no, even in this case, where there are no chifufi, there's nothing preventing the rabbin from walking through. Since it's merely on the side of Rishus Harabim, it's not part of the main walkway. It does not have a din of Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara. 1 second. We're speaking about which area? The Makam HaMachitza, which is right alongside Rishus Harabim. So if we take a look at the Mishnah, the wording of the Mishnah seems to be a bit difficult, because the Mishnah begins by saying, a chatzah which was nifratz. What is the halacha? Hamachnas mitoicha Rishus HaYachid. If one transfers from within this chatzah to Rishus HaYachid, or in the reverse, he's chayiv. According to Rabbi Lezer, apparently, not only the Makayim HaMachitza, which is right alongside Rishus Harabim, is Rishus Harabim. It appears that the entire chatzah is considered Rishus Harabim. V'amitoicha ka'amar. Mishnah clearly references to within, from within this chatzah. If he carries from within to where Rishus HaYachid is chayiv, so apparently the entire chatzah is Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara, no. The choice of words were simply on account of the choice of words of the Rabbanan. I did Amar Rabbanan mitoicha. Since the Rabbanan used the word mitoicha, Amar Iyunami mitoicha, that led Rabbi Lezer as well to refer to it as mitoicha. But certainly, inside the chatzar, there's no discussion. Of course, it's not a Rishus Harabim. It's merely the Makam HaMachitza, which is alongside the Rishus Harabim. That's up for discussion. Says him, okay, so Rabbi Lezer is on account of the Rabbanan, but why did the Rabbanan refer to the actual interior of the chatzar as well, which was not a point of discussion? Says him, Rabbanan, Amar Rabbi Lezer, Tzidei Rishus Harabim. How do we understand the Rabbanan? Rabbi Lezer said, the Tzidei Rishus Harabim, meaning the place where the mechitza once stood, that's considered a Rishus Harabim. Umahadrulei inu mitoicha. So that led them to respond to him by referencing the interior of the chatzar. What's the connection? He said Rabbi Lezer spoke about mitoicha because of the Rabbanan. But why the Rabbanan? How are they making their point by mentioning mitoicha? It seems to be unrelated to the machlekes. Says the Gemara, Rabbanan Rabbi Lezer. The choice of words of the Rabbanan were meant to provide an argument, a claim against Rabbi Lezer. This is what the Rabbanan were trying to tell him. Mila k'moidis lan. Do you not agree with us? Heicha de tilta mitzeicha. Rishus Harabim. If a person transfers from within this chatzah over to Rishus Harabim, or in the reverse, or Rishus Harabim seicha, the potter, he's certainly potter. Why? Because it's considered to be a karmelis. So, do you not agree that the chatzar itself, which is breached, open to Rishus Harabim, and Tosfos actually learns the reason why it's a karmelis is because it doesn't even have 3 mechitzas. So, you agree that the chatzar itself is a karmelis, right? If that's the case, tzidei nami lo yishna. Even the sides of the Rishus Harabim, meaning the makom of that mechitza, the place of that collapsed wall, which is right alongside Rishus Harabim, there as well. You should agree with us that there's no difference between in the chatzar and along the boundary of the chatzar. At most, it's a karmelis. It doesn't become a Rishus Harabim. So that's why they mentioned mitoicha. Let's connect the two things. you agree that inside it's a Carmelis, so you should agree that the boundary as well is a Carmelis. So what was his response? Rabbi Lezer, he responded, Hasam lekadarsha l'Rabbim. In the interior of the Chatzar, the Rabbim don't traverse there. It's not a trampled area. Therefore, it can't become Rishus Rabbim. Hacha, however, the boundary, kadarsi l'Rabbim. The public tramples there, and therefore, it becomes annexed to Rishus Rabbim and has a din of Rishus Rabbim. So in conclusion, we spoke about a Chatzar which was Nifras to Rishus Rabbim, and the Gemara concluded that the discussion is regarding the Sidei Rishus Rabbim, the area right alongside Rishus Rabbim, the Malkum of the Machitza, which is no longer here, which is right alongside the street. According to Rabbi Lezer, Sidei Rishus Rabbim has a din of Rishus Rabbim, as the Gemara concluded, because it's used by the Rabbim, they walk through here. Whereas according to Rabbanon, it does not have a din of a real Rishus Rabbim, rather we treat it merely like a canvas. Continues the Mishnah. Chatzar shenifras el Rishus Rabbim, mishtei ruchoseh. If we have a chatzar which lost part of its walls, it was breached to Rishus Rabbim on two sides. Two of its mechitzes were partially collapsed. V'chein bayis shenifras mishtei ruchoseh. Likewise, a house that was breached on two sides. V'chein mavoi shenitlu karoisav olachayev. Or during Shabbos, the kaira or the lechi of the mavi went missing. So what is the halacha? Mutarim ba'isa Shabbos. They can continue carrying in these areas, the chatzar, this house, this mavi. You can continue using them during this very Shabbos because it maintains its permissible status. But in the future you can no longer carry. Did Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda, he says one way or the other. Im mutar l'isa Shabbos. If they're mutar for that Shabbos, mutar l'isa lavei, then let them be mutar for all time. If they're asr for all time, asr l'isa Shabbos, then they should be asr for the Shabbos as well. Rashi explains based on the Gemara that his main point was the second part of the statement. Just as it's asr for all time, it's going to be asr for this Shabbos as well. So the Mishnah began with a chatzah which was nifratz mishtei ruchoseh on two sides. Says the Gemara, b'mayaskin. What are we speaking? Why is it only a concern if it has a double breach? If we're speaking about a pirza which is merely 10 amas in size, in which case has a din of a entranceway. So why is it different when if it's only from meiruach achas in one direction? You say there's no concern because it's a Pesach. It's small enough in size to be regarded as a Pesach and doesn't change the halacha of the house or of the chatzah. If that's the case, even if you have a double breach, one pirza in one direction, one pirza in the other wall, if they're merely 10 amas in size, then you're still okay. So apparently we can't be speaking about a pirza which is merely 10 amas in size, because even if it would be mishtei ruchos, it wouldn't do any harm. Ella b'yesem eser. Apparently the pirza here is larger than 10 amas, in which case it's no longer regarded as a Pesach. If that's the case, even if this breach is only on one side of the chatzar, it goes ahead and renders the mechitzas obsolete. It's a pirza. So why does the Mishnah describe it as being mishtei ruchos? Even if it would be from one direction, it would be us. Amarav lo'elim be'eser. Certainly we're speaking about a pirza which is merely 10 amas in size, which generally is regarded as a Pesach. Why in this case isn't it? We're speaking that the chatzar was breached where? At the corner, where the two mechitzas meet. And that's what the Mishnah means. Mishtei ruchoseh. Where the two corners, the two mechitzas meet. So it's partly on this side, partly on that side. What's wrong with that? The pischa b'keren zavis. People don't construct an entranceway in a corner. It's not a convenient point. It's not a proper area for a entranceway, and therefore halachically it doesn't have a din of a Pesach. Let's see Rashi up on top. Koshenifritza, says Rashi, but pirza achas has one pirza, shetifeses b'shtei ruchosea. It takes up part of both walls. Tanu keren zavas, right in the corner. What's wrong with that? The pischel b'keren zavas le'avdi. Lav urchei hu. It's not a common place to make a pesach. That's what the Mishnah meant. We're speaking about a small size pirza, 10 amis, which is generally a pesach. But since it's at the corner, it doesn't have a din of a pesach, rather as a din of a pirza, and the chatzar is deemed to have been breached to Rosh Hashanah. V'chein bayis shenifratz mishtei rechoisa, likewise a house that was breached on both sides. So we're going through similar steps now. Ma'ishna muruch achas. Why mishtei rechois? Let's say the breach would only be miruch achas on one wall. Why would that be okay? Why would that not pose a concern? Ma'ishna muruch achas. Why, if the breach is only on one side, would it not pose a concern? Since we're speaking about a home, so even if it's actually large in size, the breach, you still have a solution. Pitikra solution. Pitikra means if you have a roof, a ceiling, so it's a flat roof, a flat ceiling, and the vertical surface which you face when you enter that roofed area, that vertical surface creates that impression of separateness. Tosfos learns as a Pesach. So we view that vertical surface right at the beginning of that wall, of that roof, as though it descends downwards. P-tikra, the tip of that surface, the point, descends downwards and creates an enclosure. P-tikra yard v'seis. So here, if you have a pirza in a home, if it's from ruach achas, meaning it's just present in one wall, so what's wrong with that? It doesn't create a concern because the pitikra comes down and closes it off. If that's the case, even if the pirza is present in two directions, in two walls, it doesn't pose a concern. Let the roof just come down and close it off. So that's the pshat in the Mishnah. This bias that has a double pirza is considered to be breached and exposed. What's wrong? Let the roof just come down and close it off. Amri Dvei Rav, Mishmei de Rav. So in the yeshiva of Rav, they said the name of Rav. Kegoyin was speaking about a case shenifratz b'keren zavis. Just as we mentioned earlier, the pirza in the home as well was at the corner, in which case it can't provide Pesach. That's off the table. What about the ceiling? The pitikr yard desaisim. Why doesn't that work? The kiruyoy ba'alachsen. We're speaking about a slanty roof. In which case you can't go ahead and apply the halach of pitikr yard desaisim, which only applies to a flat roof, which has that vertical surface right at the beginning of that roof, which comes downward. However, a slanty roof, a crooked ceiling, in that case, you can't apply pitikr yard desaisim. The lekalameimar pitikr yard desaisim. So according to Rav, we're speaking about a pirza which is merely 10 amas in size, which generally has the din of a Pesach. Why in this case? Why now Mishnah? Don't we treat it like a Pesach? Because A, we're speaking where the pirza was in a corner, which can't provide Pesach. And regarding the pirza in the home had a slanty roof, in which case you can apply Pitikr Yard V'Seis. Continues the Gemara. Ushmuel Amar. Shmuel a different approach to the Mishnah because he preferred to interpret the Mishnah as speaking about even a leveled roof, not a slanty roof. The Mishnah doesn't describe it as a slanty roof. So we're speaking even if it's a leveled roof. And therefore he took a different approach to our Mishnah. Ushmuel Amar afilu b'yeser me'aser. The pirza in our Mishnah can be speaking whether it's 10 or even greater than 10 in size. If that's the case, if so, miruach achas nami. Why does the Mishnah? I was speaking about the chatzar here. Okay, so the chatzar had a pirza which is greater than 10. If that's the case, so why does it have to be mishtei ruchaisav? Why does the Mishnah insist on having the pirza present along two walls in two directions? If the pirza is greater than 10, it's no longer a Pesach. Even if it's just on one side of the chatzar, it's already breached. So that's why you're right. if this happens to a chatzar, there's a pirza greater than 10 present in a chatzar, certainly it's considered to be breached, even if it's just along one of the walls. The reason why the Mishnah references 2 walls, Mishum Bayis, on account of the house, where over there, if it's only on one side, there's no concern. Concern is only because it's on 2 sides. Why? Because if it's on one side, then you could take Pitikri Advisaisim. It closes off even a gap of greater than 10. The concern is only because it's on 2 sides. And on account of bias, the Mishnah described the Pirtz of Chatzar also as being along 2 sides, although it's not really necessary there. Says the Gemara, okay, so you're telling me that this Pirtz is present in a house. If it's only Miruach Achas, then there's no concern because Pitikri Advisaisim. Concern is only because Mishtei Ruchos. It's on 2 sides. Says the Gemara, Ubayis Gufe. Now, you have the same kasha on the house itself. Ubayis Gufe Tikshiv. We have a kasha on the house itself. Maish no Miruach Achas. Damrina Pitikri Advisaisim. Why is it different when the Pirtz is only found Miruach Achas, alongside one wall? So you tell me there's no concern there. Why? Because Pitikra comes down and closes it off. If that's the case, Beis Ruchos Nami. Even if we have a double Pirtza, a Pirtza present alongside 2 walls of the Bayis, there as well. Beis Ruchos Nami. Nema Pitikra Yard V'Saisim. Let's close it off using the concept of Pitikra. So what's the difference between 1 Pirtza and 2 Pirtzas? That's the first kasha. V'Su, another kasha. Do you propose that according to Shmuel, Pitikra can close off a Pirtza? V'Su, mi Islay l'Shmuel Pitikra Yod V'Saisim? Does he subscribe to this halach? Doesn't seem so. For Itmar, but haven't we learned? That's actually machlokes. Ach Sadra B'Bikl. You have this freestanding roof sitting out in a valley. The reason why we mentioned valley is to indicate that there are no mechitzas here whatsoever. You have a canopy, a terrace, some sort of roofed area, sitting out in the open. Rav Amar, mutal tata b'kulam. One is allowed to carry underneath this terrace. Why? Because according to Rav, pi tikra yor desaisim. The fact that there's a roof here, even though there are no mechitzas, it's just a plain freestanding roof. The pi tikra comes down on all 4 sides of this roof, creates a proper enclosure, which allows you to carry freely throughout this entire area. Ushmol Amar ein metaltalan ba el b'dal damis. Shmuel says you limit it to 4 amis. Why? Because we don't enclose the area, applying the concept of pitikra. So apparently Shmuel doesn't hold of pulling down that ceiling. Says Mahalei kasha. This is not really a kasha, because he really holds of pitikra. It just depends where. Depends to what extent. Ki lesle bedal. Sure, he doesn't hold of doing a quadruple pitikra, pulling it down all 4 sides. Aval b'sholish isle. But a triple one he does, meaning a freestanding roof doesn't have any enclosure whatsoever. You can't just create an enclosure through the pitikra. But if it already has some sort of enclosure, at least one wall with a roof, then yeah, the pitikra concept can go ahead and be mashlim, complete the enclosure. So therefore now Mishnah, certainly we have a home with mechitzas, which merely has a pirza, you can go ahead and use the concept of pitikra. So that's why the Mishnah is specifically describing the pirza as being present where? B'shtei ruchos, alongside 2 areas, along two mechitzas of this home. In which case you can't say pitikra adversaisim, even according to Shmuel. Well, why? 1 second, why? Mikam kasha. Now we still have a kasha, because if it's just 2 pirtzas, that's okay. Shmuel applies pitikra as long as there's some mechitza here. It's not a freestanding roof. It's a fully built home with some pirtzas. So why can't we say pitikra in this bayis that has a pirza b'shtei ruchos? Says the Gemara, K'da'amri beirav mishmei derav. Just as similar to the beirav who quoted Rav earlier, who described the Mishnah, the pirza in the home, as follows: Kigon shenifratz b'karen zavas. We're speaking where the pirza was experienced at the corner of the home, in which case it's not a pesach. That's number one. V'kiruya balachsein was speaking that the roof of the home was not level, was actually slanted, in which case you can't say pitikra. So just as we interpreted according to Rav in that manner, in similar fashion, let's interpret it according to Shmuel. Similarly, Hachanami here as well, according to Shmuel, we'll say it a bit differently. Kigon shenifretz b'keren zavis. Number one, the pirza on the home, the shtei ruchos is not actually two separate, distinct ruchos. We're speaking where the pirza took place at the meeting point of two mechitzos. The kiruya bar ba'arba or ba'arba was speaking that the pirza, which was greater than 10 ames, actually ate away part of the ceiling as well. So part of the roof went missing. How much? 4 tefach into the home went missing. Now what happens there? As Rashi explains, due to that collapse of the wall, including the part of the ceiling as well, the only way to say pitikra here is to apply a quadruple pitikra, which according to the Shmuel doesn't work. So what are we speaking? That the wall at the corner went missing. So we have a pirza of greater than 10 ames. Not only the wall, but also the ceiling above it. Part of the ceiling disintegrated. 4 tefach into the home. Right? So now it's like this. If you look down at the ceiling, this is what you have. You have the pirza along the corner, which also took along part of the ceiling as well. 4 tefach into the home, and 4 tefach into the home on top, 4 tefach onto the home on the side. So let's say the pirza was northeast. So on the north part of that ceiling disintegrated 4 tefach into the home, inverted into the home, and the other side as well, 4 tefach into the home. So this results in a requirement of a quadruple pitikra, because in order to enclose that home that has been breached at that corner, it's not enough to just bring the tikra down in 2 locations, meaning along that corner. Because since the tikra went missing into the home as well, it created a zigzag. 4 tefach into the home, then about 5 amas across, then 5 amas on the other side, a bit more than 5 amas, and then 4 tefach to come back out, to be even with the exterior walls of the home. So it created a 4-way zigzag, requiring 4 segments of pitikra. Right? You have to bring down the first 4 tefach element. So 4 tefach is a makam chashav. It has a significance. That's why it has to be closed off on its own. So you have to bring down the tikra by the 4 tefach element. You have to bring down the pitikra next to it, pitikra on the next segment of the zigzag, and finally at the 4th segment, the other 4 tefach element, which brings you back to the exterior wall of the home. So this quadruple pitikra, according to Shmuel, doesn't work. As we learned earlier by the Achsad Rebika, according to Shmuel, you can't make pitikra to create 4 mechitzas. Now the Tosfos Rush actually asks on this Pshat and Rashi, he says, yeah, by the freestanding Achsadra out in the Bika, which is totally exposed without any enclosure whatsoever, yeah, over there Shmuel says the pitikra can't go ahead and create an enclosure. But in this case, where you have a home which is pretty much enclosed, you just have a pirza, albeit a large pirza at the corner, where you need to apply a quadruple pitikra, but you still have enclosure around the other side. So what's the concern? Why wouldn't Shmuel allow it? That's the Kashi Es on Rashi. This is very different than a freestanding roof that has no enclosure. So apparently Rashi holds that the number 4 is a decisive number, because 4 mechitzas is what creates an enclosure, and just as we find that Shmuel doesn't allow the pitikra to create 4 mechitzas in the Achsadra, likewise, anytime you need to have a quadruple pitikra, it won't work. Because 4 mechitzas, 4 segments of pitikra is just too much. That can create an entity, that can close an area, that can't be accomplished through a pitikra. Even in this case where it's merely in the corner, it just technically happens to be split into 4 sections. So that must be Rashi's pshat. In any case, we conclude like this, that Shmuel's approach to the Mishnah is as follows. We have the chatzar, or the bayis, that has a pirza even larger than 10 amas. But since it's at the corner, you can't say it's a Pesach, because a Pesach at the corner doesn't work. And why don't you say pitikra when we have the corner pirza at the home? So according to Shmuel, we're speaking about a flat roof, right? It wasn't a slanty roof. So what's wrong with pitikra? The answer is because we can't apply pitikra when you need to go ahead and create 4 mechitzas. That's Rav's approach. That's Shmuel's approach. Rav's approach is a bit different. He learns that we're speaking about a pirza which is merely 10 amas in size, which generally can be considered a Pesach. Why in this case isn't it? Because it's Karen Zavis at the corner, which is not a Pesach. Why can't we apply pitikra? The answer is we're speaking about a slanty roof, which can't be applied to the concept of pitikra yard v'seis. So apparently Shmuel didn't want to go with Rav's pshat because the Mishnah doesn't speak about a slanty roof. It says the Gemara, Shmuel le'ama karav. Shmuel didn't follow Rav's interpretation. Allah the Mishnah doesn't speak about a slanty roof. Apparently, you're speaking about your typical standard flat roof, and therefore he didn't want to interpret the Mishnah in accordance with Rav's pshat. Likewise, the Rav le'ama Shmuel. Rav didn't follow Shmuel's pshat, who described it as a flat roof and was speaking about a large size breach, where you can really say pitikra because it's a flat roof. Problem is because it was at the corner, part of the roof disintegrated with the pirza of the mechitza, which created a need for a quadruple pitikra. Why didn't he follow that pshat? Very simple, because Rav holds even a quadruple pitikra is legal. Rav lama kishmol and Cain havil achsadra. It's like that achsadra, that even if it requires a full-way enclosure, you can do so with a pitikra. So in this case, the home would not be considered parts. Rav Tamei, Rav follows his shita, Damach Sadra Mutter, Latalta Bekula. He holds up by this Achsadra. You can carry throughout the area. The Itmar, as we learned, Achsadra Bika, if you have this freestanding roof out in the open. Rav Amar, Mutter Talta Bekula. One may carry beneath it because it is deemed to be enclosed, using the concept of Pitikra Yard Versaisim on all 4 sides of this Achsadra. Ushmol Amar, Ein Metalton Ba El Barba Amis. You can only carry within 4 amis. Why? Explains the Gemara. Rav Amar Mutal Talton Bekula may carry freely. Amrina Pitikra Yard Versaisim. He holds that the tip of that overhang is viewed as though it descends downwards, creates a full enclosure, creates a proper seyach. Ushmol Amar Ein Metalton Ba El Barba Amis. You're limited to 4 amis. Loy Amrinan Pitikra Yard Versaisim. We don't bring down the tip of that tikra, and as the Gemara explained earlier, because Shmuel will not allow it to be applied where you need to create 4 mechitzas. So basically, the difference between Rav and Shmuel in the way they interpret our Mishnah, the reason why Rav didn't follow Shmuel's approach, it was really based on a previous machlekes, a previous notion, where Rav disagreed with Shmuel's concept. He holds you can apply pitikra to this extent. Therefore, he couldn't follow Shmuel's pshat, which was based on the fact that we don't apply a quadruple pitikra. So that compelled him to learn the Mishnah differently. We're speaking about a slanty roof, and a slanty roof can't be viewed as though it descends downward. Continues the Gemara. So we have the machlekes between Rav and Shmuel by the Achsadra. Rav says we apply pitikra in all directions. Shmuel says we don't. Now, what size Achsadra are we speaking about? How large is this breach, is this opening? So you have 2 approaches. According to the first approach is Be'eser kuli amuli pligi. There's no machlekes when it's merely 10 amas wide, because that's a sheer Pesach. So although it's fully open, it doesn't have a real Tzuras HaPesach. Right? Your typical Tzuras HaPesach has a wall on either side, which gives the impression of an entranceway. Here it's missing the entire mechitza, it's just a freestanding roof. So certainly the standard concept of Pesach can't be applied here. However, since it conforms to the shear of Pesach, it's limited to the Esa, which is a shear of Pesach. The Gemara maintains that all agree Even Shmuel would agree you could apply pitikra here, to use the roof as a Pesach, even on all four directions. Be'eser kuli amli pligi, all agree if it's only 10, it's okay. Ki pligi, when is the machlekes? Be'eser me'eser. When we're trying to cover an area, enclose a ruach, which is more than eser, which is greater than shir Pesach. Therefore, according to Shmuel, you're limited. According to Rav, even then you could apply pitikra. Bikad Amri, there's another version. Be'eser kuli amli pligi, if the side of the achsadra, which you're trying to enclose, is larger than 10, which is greater than a shir Pesach, all agree that you will not apply pitikra to this extent. Ki pligi be'eser, machlekes is only if it's eser, which is a shir Pesach. And over there, Rav says, yeah, you can apply an unlimited amount of pitikra, where Shmuel says you're limited. Says the Gemara, V'ha Amar Rabbi Yehuda. If that's the case, what about the statement that Rabbi Yehuda said, Koira dalid mata b'churva? Let's say we have a beam running across a churva, ruins, a collapsed home, uninhabited home. Where the mechitzas are pretty much collapsed, but there's a beam running across it. This koira is 4 tefach wide. So you have a beam running across, it's 4 tefach wide, which, as Rashi explains, is large enough to create a proper enclosure within it. Because, as we learned the other day, a mechitzah needs to be 10 tefach high, and also needs to be 4 tefach wide, meaning you have to enclose an area which is at least 4 by 4 tefach. So this koira, which is 4 tefach wide, can potentially house a Rosh Hashanah underneath it. So Rabbi Yehuda tells us, yeah, koira dal mata b'churva. It allows carrying beneath it. Why? Employing the concept of pitikr yared v'saisim. This beam has points facing downward. So we go ahead. Let's say we have a long beam. So the point, the vertical surface on the far side will descend downward. On the near side, descend downward. On the left and the right as well. So we have a fully enclosed area utilizing a quadruple pitikra. Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Ravor. Rav Nachman quoted Rabbi Ravor a similar halacha by a koira, daled mater b'mayim, a koira which is suspended above water. So, for instance, we have that joint pit, the borsha ben shtei chatzeres, which we discussed earlier in the Mishnah, which requires a mechitza, in order for the members of both chatzeres to make use of it. So this bar was situated right in the middle, right at the boundary of the two chatzeres. Let's say you have a koira suspended above it. It's matir b'mayim. It allows use because it creates an enclosure beneath it, utilizing a quadruple pitikra. Says the Gemara, so these two statements, mani, in accordance with which shita will they state it? Says the Gemara, lahach lishna da amres be'eser pligi. According to the first approach, that when the gap is merely 10 amos in size, which is shir Pesach, Loi pligi, all agree, even Rav and Shmuel both would agree that you can apply a quadruple pitikra. So according to that version, be'eser b'divrei HaKoil, these halachas were describing a gap which is merely 10 amos in size, and therefore all agree pitikra can be applied on all four sides. Lahach lishna. However, according to the second lashon, the amers that you said be'eser pligi, that when it's larger than 10, all agree you can't apply a quadruple pitikra. Machlekes is merely when it's 10 or smaller. That's when the machlekes is. Rav maintains you could apply pitikra on all four sides, whereas Shmuel says you can't. So according to that version, Kirav. These statements of Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Nachman, that you can go ahead and use a beam as an enclosure, utilizing the concept of a quadruple pitikra, apparently we're speaking that it is 10 amos or smaller. In that case, Rav holds they can apply pitikra on all four sides. Okay, time for a brief chazara of today's daf. We began with Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel, and we ended with Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel. So we began with a discussion of something which changed the equation on Shabbos. We have two chatzeres who made their own independent ears, and then the dividing wall collapsed on Shabbos. So Rav maintains, now it's also. Shmuel says, no, Shabbos kiven shehutra hutra. Once it was in heter at the onset of Shabbos, it remains in place. We learned about a chatzer, which was nifras to Shus Rabbim. The Gemara concluded, Machlekes is regarding the space which is immediately near the Shus Rabbim, meaning the makom of mechitza, which is considered to be tzidei rishus harabim. Rabbi Lezer holds has the din of rishus harabim, since it's used by the rabbim. According to Rabbanan, it doesn't have a din of rishus harabim, it's merely considered a karmelis. We learned about a chatzar, which was breached, a house that was breached, or a mavi, whose kairo lechi went missing on Shabbos. Or machlekes, according to Rabbi Yehuda, they had to remain throughout Shabbos. But in the future, you have to go ahead and repair it. According to Rabbi Yossi, just as in the future it's hasar, during the Shabbos as well, it will be asar because it's mechitza, it's went missing. We have two approaches to the Mishnah. Rav's approach was speaking about a perza which is merely 10 amos in size, which generally we regard it as a Pesach. Why in this case don't we? Because we're speaking where it happened b'keren zavis, at the corner, where the two ruchais meet each other. So if it happened by the chatzar or by the home, it's no longer regarded as a Pesach. Now if it happened in the bayis, what about pi tikra yard v'soisim? Why can't we use the tip of that ceiling, the vertical face of that ceiling, and use it as a Pesach, as though it descends downwards and encloses the perza? Rav tells us because we're speaking about a home which has an alachsein roof, on a slant, which doesn't feature this vertical face of the roof, which can be pulled downward. Shmuel's approach is that our Mishnah is speaking about a flat roof, which can certainly provide full pi tikkur yard v'soisim services. So then, what's the problem with this perza? Even if it's greater than 10 amis, but it should be considered enclosed through the pi tikkur. The answer is because the perza occurred at the corner where the two ruchais meet, and also part of the roof collapsed with it. And that necessitates a quadruple pi tikkur. And according to Shmuel, you can't do that. And therefore, this bayis is considered to be parts. And this is based on an earlier machlekes by the Achsad Rabbika, where Rav says you can apply pi tikkur on all four sides, whereas according to Shmuel, you must have some sort of enclosure. You can't go ahead and apply pi tikkur to create four mechitzas. The Gemara concluded that according to one version, the machlekes in Rav and Shmuel only applies to a case where you need to enclose a gap which is greater than 10 amis, greater than a shir pesach. But if it's only eser amis, all agree, you can apply a quadruple pi tikkur. According to the second version of the Gemara, when it's more than 10 amis, all agree you can't apply a quadruple pi tikkur. Machlekes is in the case where it's eser amis, which is still within the shir of pesach. Rav says you can, and even there Shmuel says you can't go ahead and do pi tikkur on all four sides.